The 2016 Wilder Award Committee studied the award criteria, nominated authors and illustrators from all genres, contacted past Wilder chairs and committee members for practical advice. We received nominations from our colleagues, and we sifted through pages of worthy candidate entries. The process was challenging, since ours was the very first year that the Wilder Award would be given in each year. And yet, we found it exhilarating to evaluate some of the finest writing and illustrations in the field of children's literature. After careful review, we deliberated, and our committee chose to honor Pinkney's distinctive and illustrious and impactful career. Let me introduce the hardworking members of the 2016 Wilder Award Committee. I'd like to thank them sincerely for their support, their dedication, their expertise, and especially their commitment to task. Please hold your applause until they are all recognized. Maria Gentle, Kathleen T. Isaacs, Carolyn Phelan, and Martha Seif Simpson. Couldn't have done it without them. It is a personal privilege to stand before you tonight to present Jerry Pinkney, a distinguished author and illustrator, this prestigious and well-deserved honor for his substantial and lasting contribution for children. For more than 50 years, Pinkney has created engaging and enduring art published in more than 100 books. Now, while Pinkney's style is distinctive and often illuminates the African American experience, it's not limited solely to illustrating stories from a particular genre or tradition. His illustrations of tales from Aesop, the Bible, Grimm, and Anderson, oh my goodness, capture the humor and pathos of those classic stories. Pinkney's command of line, color, and composition, strength, and art demonstrates his classical training. But his work has a liveliness, a strength, and grace that cannot be taught. Pinkney grew up in Philadelphia in a closely knit community where storytelling was a natural part of life. His mother read classic stories aloud to him, and both his parents were encouraged his early love of drawing. He and his wife, Gloria Jean Pinkney, have 4 children, a number of grandchildren, and they can claim credit for inspiring an entire family of writers and illustrators who are skilled and award-winning in their own genres. Pinkney's artworks are always stunning, imaginative, masterful. Whether taking a timeless tale in a picture book or a celebrated historical figure for a postage stamp, or a one-man exhibition of fine art in a gallery, Pinkney's impact is far-reaching. In 2014, the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art recognized him as the Artist of the Year. His artwork has also earned him several honorary degrees and many, many awards, In addition to his 5 Caldecott honors, 4 Coretta Scott King Illustrator honors, and 5 Coretta Scott King Book Awards, he received the Caldecott Medal in 2010 for The Lion and the Mouse. Who could forget the striking image of a lion's face on the wordless jacket of the cover? This was very inspiring. And this very morning, he received the 2016 Coretta Scott King Virginia Hamilton Life Achievement Award. Slow and steady wins the race. From The Tortoise and the Hare, 2013. And this speaks directly to what is unique about Pinkney's esteemed career. He has been deliberate, precise, and yes, steady, offering a consistently innovative footprint of excellence in his wake. He has created an outstanding collection of nameless books that speak to the heart and the longing in readers, young and old. Now, it is my great pleasure and honor to present the 2016 Laura Ingalls Wilder Award to my friend, Jerry Pinkney.
Crystal, that was beautiful. Now I just want to make sure I have the right speech. Congratulations, Sophie and Matt and all the other my fellow awardees this evening. With the Laura Ingalls Wilder Award, I was struck once again with the revelation that drawing changed the trajectory of my life. More than that, actually, drawing changed my life. I was born in 1939, smack in the middle of a family of 8, and in the middle of another turbulent era in American history. The country was still recovering from the Dust Bowl. The Great Depression was finally ending, and World War II was just beginning. All children were subjected to air raid drills during the school day, interrupting our studies with the presence of fear and the threat of menace. But no matter what was going on around me, I always found time to draw. In interviews, I'm often asked, how did you become the artist you are today? And many times, I'm invited to share drawing from my youth or a photograph of me as a kid in the act of making art. I always have to respond that, unfortunately, I have nothing to offer up. I have no sketches saved from those hours of sitting on the living room floor in the nook underneath the piano. No photos of my doodles my father allowed me to make on the wall next to my bed. I had no high school assignments tucked away in drawers, no prints from printmaking studio in Philadelphia Museum School of Art. I had nothing to share from my early history of making pictures. Nothing that speaks to that passion. Why didn't I save any of that stuff? The simple reason is this: I never thought I would be an artist. Not a real one, anyway. So what would be the point of holding on to anything? Growing up in Philadelphia in the 1940s, I was very much aware of the racial separation. While segregation was not would not release its hold on the South. In the North, Jim Crow tightened its grip. Our house was a dead-end block on a row with row homes with African-American neighbors who migrated from the South during the Great Depression and migration. But each day, as I took a left off Verlham Street towards my all-black elementary school, all-white neighborhoods and factories surrounded our community. In Philly, you didn't see those powerful degrading signs, whites only or colored only, that you experience in other parts of the country. It was more like an assigned role, a prescribed way of being. I lived out those days with the coding, you can and you can't. Art was definitely a can't. Not only were there no artists in my family, but in those early years, there were no models of such a career in my universe. I got the sense, echoed again and again, that a person of color should not consider art as a useful endeavor for the future. Instead, we were limited to the armed forces and trade labor. Though I initially accepted that construct, my drawing never stopped. If anything, the need and desire to create only increased. And I was fortunate to have mentors, strong arms lifting me up. My mother, who loved to read, always encouraged me to be true to myself. And my father, Jack of all trades, who drew great satisfaction when working with his hands, hanging wallpaper and making over houses, brought home squares of leftover patterned paper from his job so I could sketch on the reverse side. My grandfather worked at the pencil factory located at the end of our block, so pencils were never in short supply. They were simple tools, but they were all I needed. Spending hours doodling on my own, I learned I could transform my environment through the act of making something. In creating, I could remake the world however I wanted. Later, as I became more dedicated to drawing, Dad provided me with my own sketchbook. And I took a pad and paper everywhere. Even to my job at 13, I'd been hired to sell newspaper at a stand located at a busy intersection of Germantown and Shelton Avenues. And in between barking, "Get your newspapers here," at passerbys, I drew and sketched people waiting on the corner for a trolley or bus, always working quickly so as not to lose a sale. But my boss, Mr. Matt Shaneberg, was always supportive. And when it was really slow, he didn't mind if I shaped that time with a longer, more focused piece. I would perch on the edge of my newsstand. I drew the display mannequins in the department store window on the corner, and that's how I met my first professional artist. I had a regular customer named John Liney, and one day when he saw me drawing, he asked if I would share my work with him. It was only after flipping through my sketchbook that he revealed that he, too, loved to draw, and that, in fact, his syndicated strip, Henry, ran in the newspapers that I was selling. Mr. Liney invited me to visit his studio nearby, and I often stopped by to see him at work. Could that be where the idea of many pictures telling a story was seeded for me? I always had teachers who stoked my artistic drive. Upon graduating from Roosevelt Junior High School, I elected to attend Dobbins Vocational School, where I would keep my creative flame burning, and I majored in commercial art. One of my mentors during that freshman and sophomore year was Mr. Sam Brown, a colorful and devoted teacher who was also African American. How uplifting that was for me to see a respected, successful man who came from a community and believed in my abilities. Besides teaching, Mr. Brown also ran a sign painting shop, and he hired me to work alongside of him after school and over the summer break. Now, keep in mind that I'm dyslexic, so I struggle with words from a young age. Picture this teacher employing a dyslexic kid to paint signs. Now, that's real support. Dobbins was also where I met Gloria Jean when we were magically partnered at a Valentine dance. That was the beginning of what would become the great partnership of my life. She encouraged me then, and all these years later, her support is still the rock that I lean on. However, not everyone had the same faith in my abilities. Back then, I had a different art teacher during the second half of the school year. A man who had always graded on a level playing field, giving fair grades based on talent and hard work instead of an A+. His big thing was to give A's with hand-drawn wings on each side, marks of excellence. In my senior year at Dobbins in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Board of Education announced it would award 3 scholarships to art majors from the city's competitive high schools. I thought I had a good shot. After all, I had received quite a few A's with wings. Certainly more than my fellow students, yet when it was time to apply for college scholarships, this teacher doled out the applications to only the white students. Though he believed I had talent and had held my work as a model, I understand now that this was a way of putting black students such as myself on notice to rethink the idea of art as a career. He wasn't alone. My father who had brought me my first sketchbook and had found ways to enroll me in art classes, joined the naysayers. He believed that when high school ended for me, so would my focus on art. In fairness, how was he to know that there was a future in art for his son when he was not aware of African Americans working in that field? But my father and my teacher were trying to spare me what they envisioned would be too tall a hurdle to clear, too hard a fall. It was that old misguided refrain, you can and you can't. This is not for you. I myself did not fully believe in my ability to succeed professionally in art, but I'm sure now knew how it made me feel, the act of making it. Art was my safe harbor, and the joy of making pictures centered and comforted me. It was the only thing I could imagine doing. I thought of those supporters whose hands had lifted me up. My mother, my boss, Matt Shangberg, the cartoonist John Liney, and my former teacher, Sam Brown. I carried their voices with me, spurring me on as I entered the guidance counselor's office. I left with the scholarship applications I had been denied, and then I made sure that all of our other black students in my class had them too. That year, out of the 3 scholarships awarded, Dobbins received 2 of them. And I was granted a full scholarship to the art school of my choice. And you can believe it, my best friend, who was also African American, received the 2nd scholarship. After graduation, I found myself at the Philadelphia Museum School of Art. There I learned that art school wasn't about becoming an artist. I was already an artist. I just had to let it play itself out. Going forward, the making of art would be my only objective. The process is where I would live. Once I chose to burrow into the pursuit of the craft, that elusive art career came more naturally than I had imagined. 5 years after leaving the Philadelphia Museum School of Art, I was working for Barker Black Studio, an illustration and design house in Boston, Massachusetts. One of the projects that came into the studio for me was a picture book called The Adventures of Spider with Little Brown. I completed the drawings for the first dummy, and that was it. I was hooked. In creating picture books, a new world opened up. The book itself became my muse, a vessel that would hold all the joy and sadness of my growing up years, all the triumphs and tragedies. By using my personal history, the work became more layered, the drawings more meaningful. Art became the bridge that carried me from the past I wanted to escape from into the world I wanted to inhabit. My childhood was limited, but I learned that through my own creativity, the world was limitless. That first discovery was a long time ago. Since then, I have spent countless hours at my drawing board, and I can only imagine how many tubes of watercolor, brushes, pencils, and sheets of paper I have gone through. All have been key ingredients in a rich stew of visual storytelling. Be a folk tale, fairy tale, a Bible story, a fable, a poem, or a nonfiction piece, my intent has always been to awaken the emotional palate, to make viewers laugh, cry, ponder, and most of all, to feel compassion. And after 50 years of illustrating his books, it is incredibly meaningful to receive an award for what they tell me is making a lasting contribution to literature for children, while doing something I always needed to do for myself. All along, I was drawing my dream. Spending so many years working toward this dream has created a deep well of thank yous to my family first and foremost, especially my parents, Willie Mae and James. Though initially it was hard for my father to accept my career path, and he rarely asked about my work when he was alive. After he passed in 1999, I was surprised to hear my sisters recall how he had traveled, how he had raved about his successful son, the artist. I still credit him and my mother for planting those first seeds of creativity and drive in me. My deepest thanks to my wife, Gloria Jean, minister and author in her own right, who is my soulmate and cornerstone, for her love, encouragement, prayers, and spirited counsel over 56 years of marriage and even more and longer as best friends. And to my 4 children and 9 grandchildren and great-granddaughter, that great affection extends, of course, to my extended family who's here to welcome, who's here this evening. Welcome presence their welcome presence had made my smile a little wider and my love of family even stronger. To all the mentors and special individuals who have championed me, who wanted and watered the seeds of my parents planted to help me to grow. My sincere gratitude. 2 years ago, I found out that my teacher, Sam Brown, the one with the sign painting business, had also been a watercolorist. In 2014, the Philadelphia Museum of Art acquired the jacket illustration for my Caldecott honor book, John Henry, for an exhibition called Represent 200 Years of African American Art. Imagine my surprise when I attended the opening and saw my high school teacher's painting displayed along the same wall. as my own. As it turned out, Mr. Brown had been a respected and well-acknowledged painter in the 1930s, but had never shared this passion with me. Is it possible that Mr. Brown simply gave up, or that his own hurdles were too high? It makes me all the more grateful for the continued professional encouragement I have received throughout my career from the authors who have allowed me the opportunity to provide the visual storytelling and the visual storyline for their texts. And from my publishers who have given me so much creative freedom. Dial Books, with its rich history, has been a long-term home. And for my very first book, published in 1964, I've also had a steady and fruitful collaboration with Little Brown. Fortunately, that first book was just the beginning. And since those early days, I've worked on over 100 titles. I learned about bookmaking and the craft of storytelling from three of the best and most dedicated citizens of children's literature: publisher and editor Phyllis Fogelman, art director Atha Tehorn, and publisher and editor David Ruther. My longtime editors, Andrea Spooner, Lori Hornick, and Ann Schwartz, along with art director Louis Malkin, also warrant special recognition for their diligence and attention over the years. In truth, there have been many, many, many people working together to make my books a reality. And each of those individuals deserve a shout out, but they are far too numerous to list here. For now, let me acknowledge all the editors and art directors and all the people who make up the production, marketing, and publishing, publicity, and sales teams that bring my efforts into being. My agent, Shelley Fogelman, for his guidance and friendship for the past 25 years. In order for me to be at my best, I need a sense of clarity in how to navigate every aspect of bookmaking management. And he has shepherded me my career through all the twists and turns in the ever-shifting world of publishing. I would like to thank the American Library Association for this tremendous recognition and for the commendable work done by its members. Above all, these awards demonstrate continued commitment to putting books in the hands of young people, paving a way for the next generation of readers and thinkers who will change their world and impact ours. They will need our attention and support to find that vision, and the timing has never been more critical. We have our work cut out for us all of us. I'm saddened that we still have too many children waking up in a world where the odds are stacked against them, where they don't feel safe in their communities. This year I had the opportunity to visit with many elementary school students and witness some of the most dedicated and caring staff doing their best to meet the challenge of our time. Just recently I spent time with Matthew, a first grader who loved to draw. Since I was there presenting to the second grade and at his school, and Matthew wouldn't get the experience of my talk. A thoughtful, instructional coach inviting him to share his art projects with me. As I had lunch, Matthew comes from a difficult family, a difficult home life, and labeled as a troublemaker. I found him articulate, smart, talented, with an infectious smile. It was obvious he was using his art as refuge. Later, I sent Matthew a package containing some of my books along with drawing pads and pencils. But it was the instructors' attention that filled my heart with hope and optimism. Librarians and teachers have the most important job. In a sense, for kids like Matthew, they are the keeper of dreams, the dispensers of possibility. That was certainly true for me growing up. So to all the people who have supported me through years, who have opened my books and shared them with others, thank you for your belief in me. It is you I have felt nudging me to always stay true to drawing my dream. Thank you.